We're a couple of Kiwis living in Australia who 10 years ago bought a 28-foot yacht to refit and live on, to learn about living aboard and save enough money to buy a stripped-out, sunken 70-ton steel trawler. Our dream was to convert a diesel fishing boat into a biodiesel, veggie oil, solar wind-powered expedition and research boat capable of handling big seas, big projects and taking a crew from around the world and online with us. After rebuilding her, we'll soon be launching with our crew to do research, projects, expeditions, innovative engineering and work around the world. Welcome aboard.
This week in preparation for Stu and Adrian arriving, we need to get a few creature comforts on board the boat. A table for the saloon needs to be built, and the cat walks out on a job halfway through. You may be wondering why we're not working on the galley. With the guys arriving a bit earlier than expected, we have to get these jobs knocked out. And we also thought a break from the galley would be quite nice while we get stuck into these jobs. So you want a bit more?
Yep.
What are we at?
30, 31, 32, right there. We had a roundtable Patreon meeting on the weekend and we took to the table the decision, do we do a room full of all sofas and chairs, comfortable chairs, or do we put a dining table in? And it was overwhelmingly yes, put a dining table in, which is what we would prefer. And this will double for researchers can use this table. We want to have a Sunday roast every Sunday. It's one of our things.
So we did some measuring, some kung fu fighting, and then Jess decided it was time for a tea party. With the formal place setting sorted, we decided we should probably finish this table. How big do you want these radiuses? I think they'd look silly if they're huge, like a nice small trim one, because I think it would go really nice with the 6mm edge radius. Like not a great big one. Here's a bigger one.
Oh, can you put the other one on again?
There you go. Even though this is quite a bigger diameter, it's still not a massive radius, is it?
No. That makes it quite square.
Well, why don't we do that, cut them, and then if you don't like it, we can always cut bigger. We thought about another option as well. A large radius with a lid. Ah, we're getting rain. Fucking bollocks, we're getting rain.
We've got light rain for a little while and then it's going to moderate for an hour and a half, so we're trying to get this wood cut and back inside so it doesn't warp in the humidity. So it's a race against time. It's very important. It's very dramatic. We're both stressed out of our marbles.
This is us stressed out of our marbles.
Dame's very stressed.
Where's my spanner? See the drama?
Oh, no. So we didn't make it?
No, we didn't make it.
It's too late.
Can't do any of the timber work now that it's raining. It's not raining hard, but it's still too much to be able to muck around with any sort of timber out here. We'll just end up damaging it. We do still have the stainless legs to build, so I've got a pretty simple design that we're going to knock up. My plan is a piece of 3-inch radius corner shiny lovely stainless. I've got 2 meters of this. I'll cut it meter and meter, cut it in half. The table won't be a meter high, but we're just going to trim it to suit whatever. We're actually going to lay the leg on that angle there, so it's going to be like, you know, rotated 45 degrees, and then have a piece of 50x6 flat bar. I'm going to cut this to length and we'll slot this down in there and weld it vertically in there like that, and that's going to be the weight bearer. We'll put a couple of tags on this as well so that we can screw into the table. So it's an incredibly simple design. Right, my plan, these two little things here, I need to basically file them up, put them together like that so there's no birds, and then drill 2 identical holes through them, and they're going to be the mounts for the table. Okay. We have a jig. I've made a little jig. Now, why bother making a jig? So what I've done, piece of 30mm timber, with a couple of bits of timber just as a right angle. I have to drill 8 of these, and they're 4 pairs basically, they all have to be identical. If I put that in there and pop that down, it's going to be in the same location every single time. And pull it out, spin it around, don't have to do any resetting, I know it's going to be right. Next step, recessing. So this is the top, this is the bottom. I'm going to recess these in, so they'll sit like that and they'll weld on. Halfway over, but they'll weld on basically like that. So we've just got to nick these corners off these 2 beams. Because I want these parts to be identical, it's time to build a temporary jig on the bench, start putting everything together in a way that it's always going to be the same, replicated across both legs. Now that I sussed out how to actually do this, it was time just to keep doing it over and over, making sure they're all identical. They turned out pretty good. The reason I wanted to TIG them is they're just so clean, there's no splatter, they're just perfect for visual welds. The corners were still a bit sharp, so it was time to release the inner grinding ninja and get these nice and clean. Brackets sit that way up on the table, so they screw underneath the table like that. This corner down here is a wee bit stabby for most people's knees, so let's round that off.
The storm is coming, but I'm prepared.
With a good flap wheel polish up, came up pretty nice in the end, with a nice radius on the bottom. I've routed the sides smooth, so this lovely slab teak is cut to the size we need. I need to get my official radius tool and start drawing our radiuses back in. So if we throw these radiuses in here, I need to route them because I want to have them just as awesome as the edges. So I need to make a little bit of a jig, which is pretty straightforward to do, I think. I've got the right cutter to be able to follow a jig on top, so I'll just go and make one and then buzz around. Sender! See if this is going to work. Theoretically, we should be able to line this up with the edge and it should be bang on. Ha! Let's call that a win. Honkily bloody dory. First time I've ever done anything like that, and I'm absolutely stoked with how that turned out. Right, the sun's going down, so we do have a wee bit of a race against time. So I'm going to buzz the radius on this bottom, give it a sand up, and then probably carry this thing upstairs to get it out of the humidity, paint it first thing in the morning. Well, maybe, depending on temperature. How's that nice, eh?
Beautiful.
There's a wee bit of a surprise. The legs. That's how they'll sit on the table when we've mounted it. Obviously this is upside down. It'd be ridiculous sticking them on the top. Because it gets so humid where we work, we have to take all of our wood and timber work inside every night to protect it so that it doesn't warp and do crazy things on us. Interesting observation. So this is finger jointed. There's a whole bunch of different types. You can sort of see dark wood here, you got light wood here, but down here's a really interesting thing. Have a look along there, see the dry patches? I think that's a bit of sapwood. I don't know much about timber, but to me that looks like a bit of sapwood or something, and it's absolutely vacuuming up the epoxy. The rest of it seems to be holding quite well, except for those areas of really light wood where it's just disappearing into the wood. But that's actually the light side. There's lots of light and dark on the side, and the other side's quite even, all being relatively sort of dark. So this is the underside. The first coat, it's come up pretty good. Pretty glossy for coat number 1. So what I'm going to do now is go over it. I've got a 320 grit on the sander. I'll go through and give this a scuff. I haven't done the underside yet, I've only done this top side, which is actually the bottom of the table. That's my practice side. So I'll go through and 320 it, and then we'll throw another coat of this stuff on. This liquid glass that we're using is pretty particular, so it says once it's mixed up, if you're mixing small batches, like this is 175ml, to basically just let it sit for 30 minutes and actually get some exothermic temperature up. So I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to go and grab some plywood. The plywood that I'm getting is for a new bed base that's going into one of the cabins downstairs in the freezer room. Dangar Stew is almost here. He's about 100 miles away at this stage. If you're following him on AIS, he's coming up the coast, he's nearly here. This is going to be a double bed base that will be mounted in one of the lower cabins. Okay, I haven't left this for the full 30 minutes. Oh, I've left it for 25, okay, close enough. It's starting to get a little bit warm. Not what I would call epoxy warm, but warm enough. I don't want to leave it much longer. Tipping it like this basically removes the bubbles on the surface. This allows the paint to dissipate the bubbles, but also self-level, which is one of the features of this epoxy, is that it does have pretty good self-leveling properties. If you're wondering what self-leveling is, it's an awesome feature that some paints have, where they have a slower drying time generally, and they flatten out. So instead of getting like brush strokes, you almost get a finish like it was sprayed. So you can achieve a pretty awesome surface when you roll and tip a self-leveling paint.
Tell me, how high is your pen?
recently destroyed our lounge, so those two crates there are the legs and chairs for our soon to be finished table. Meanwhile, this is the lower port cabin where I'll be building the double bed frame. Here's a problem that I can't weld myself out of. What I need to do is create a bed base for a slightly bigger than double, slightly smaller than queen size mattress. Don't ask me why, but that's the size that it is. Right, what I need to achieve is this. So in order to get to there, this sheet of plywood isn't quite the right size, but we can chop and trim and do a few things and join some ply, and I reckon we're going to get there out of one single sheet. My plan is to slice this corner off and then flip it right over and join it back to the sheet of wood. I've made an executive decision. Right now there's not going to be access underneath this bed from the top. There's 600mm right the way along the side of this bed. This one here, I'm actually thinking maybe drawers might be a better idea, because then you don't have to destroy a bed to actually get into it, so it might become a lot more usable if they are drawers. So yes, I'll go with that. The more I think about it, the more I like that idea. Right, let's see if we can make a manky old piece of plywood as pretty as that table upstairs.
If you're wondering what's behind me, it's the mattress that got donated by a lovely couple here on the hard stand beside us a few weeks ago now. Thanks everyone for your amazing support with my brain injury. Oh, who knew it was so bad? The MRI was fine, there's no ruptures or anything, so I'm doing well. I've just got to be careful. And Dame's finding me quite hilarious. I'm finding me quite hilarious. But humour aside, it's quite a deficit. It's really quite amazing. So anyone who's got a brain injury out there, strokes, anything like that, I'm with you, babies, I'm with you. So how do we measure how far to put these chairs? So what you might not be aware of is these chairs are not going to be on the legs, these legs. We're going to actually take them off and they're going to be attached by a bracket to the wall. And we've just been talking about how do we get the best use of the space with the table. So we're going to actually put them on like little runners that go in and out so that people can push them all the way back, slide in under the table and bring them forward to be comfortable, because our main goal is really comfort, so we can sit around and have long philosophical conversations over dinners. Really important thing that's been missing on Brupeg. Okay, so we need to do, so it's 945, isn't it? Yeah. This is us trying to decide exactly where to put the legs.
Yeah.
Right there?
1050, yep.
We've added an extra 50mm.
That's the centre of the rear leg.
Yeah. We've added a little extra here, so instead of putting the table, that, you know, like that, we put it a little bit out, so there's a bit of manoeuvring.
I need to do a diamond pattern in here. This measuree was also that we could get to this point, so we can figure out exactly what height we need to cut this to. So I know that the height has to be 685mm. I know this because I wrote it on the wall because I knew I'd forget it. What I need to do now, I was trying to figure out, do I need to trim on a funny angle or anything like that, because the floor isn't straight and flat and whatever, there's a curve going on and so on. We have to factor all of that in. However, that's just sitting on a square cut and it's almost level. So what I'm going to do is just cut it square and then use the MIG welder just to fill up. There'll only be like a 1 or a 2mm gap on this back edge. So this edge will touch the ground and this edge will be clear about a millimetre or two. So I'll tack this corner and then I'll just start adjusting it to get it square and level and lovely and all that sort of stuff. That's looking decidedly shorter.
Won't you tell me how you feel? I shared my dream with you until the morning. Everybody else have
these tacked in, I'm now ready to weld them in properly. But to do that, I need a fire chief. My fire chief is currently training. The kitchen has been smoked out in pre-preparation training for fire watch inside the engine room. Certification.
Are you complaining about my skills in the kitchen?
No, I just noticed a gentle waft of fire.
Burning things. I am burning
Just
things.
moseying through the boat. Jess and I have a system when we're welding in different rooms together like this, where I'll bang on the floor a couple of times and she'll return that same signal back so that I know it's safe to weld, and then we're good to go. And there we have it with the carpet back. A tiny little bit of plywood on top to simulate a table. The reason the plywood's on is I need to start sanding this and getting the coat on the bottom of it. So it's been sitting here overnight. Well, all day. It's been inside overnight. Now we need to get it to that state on both sides. So Jess and I have just flipped this over, and you can sort of see right down on the edge, we've basically got runs that have come over from the other side when we painted it and come over the side. But I wanted this to happen because the edge is perfectly covered right the way around, and these runs are all on the flat, so I can really easily just sand those off with the orbital. And this is the nice side, so you sort of see the grain, it's quite even, so it's all, in terms of colour, it's quite even. There's not a lot of sapwood on this side. There's the occasional bit you can sort of see, like here, a little bit there, etc. A little bit there, but it's all tiny little corners. It's not like big slabs like on the other side, and that's partly why I wanted this to be the top compared to the other side. I've re-evaluated my position on this liquid glass epoxy. I've sanded the whole lot off because I think it's shit. The reason why I don't like it is because it's awesome in the ideal conditions. However, ideal conditions are very difficult to achieve, and we are getting crap results. So around this edge, what I found was it was basically just gumming up, hadn't even set. It had been well over 24 hours. I had it inside this room on that table there overnight, and it was I had a heater underneath it, an oil heater all night, so it had like plenty of warmth compared to standard old manky $30 a litre epoxy on that piece of plywood there, left out overnight. It was a freezing night, rock hard. So we're going to go back to what I know. This is the stuff that I know, and I know that I'll be able to get a decent finish with this eventually. It's a real pain, setbacks like this. It's probably knocked 24 hours out of our timeline that we were, going to be doing. So we would have been on to our second coat. Now we're back down to putting our first coat on. So yep, it happens, but yeah, it's not really anything I can do about it. I flip the table over. This is the underside, and I run a bead of painter's tape. So this is a plastic tape, so you got a real perfect fine edge all the way around the side. I've done that so that drips and so on that will happen when I put this next coat on will come down and go onto the tape, and then we can just pull the tape off, and we've got a really clean, crisp edge.
Thought you'd be the one for me. Won't you tell me?
Round two, it came up pretty good, so we're going to fit it. Put there somewhere.
Beautiful. Now heavy lifting here. Okay, and you can slide on that then over to the other, can't you? You need to screw it down, right?
Yep.
We wanted to give you an update about my health, and I thought what better way to do it than on this table. I'm on very light duties and resting a lot of the time, but thank you so much for all your amazing words and reassurances. I just have to be really, really careful. My vascular system is all flared up and everything's not working as it should, so that sort of slows down healing, and my connective tissue disorder slows down healing as well. So it's going to be a long recovery. I'm being sent for some studies, like this really like 4-day study or something for testing what deficits they have. Things have changed quite a lot on board. You'll notice I'm a bit tight in my neck. I had a little minor subluxation on my neck, and I pulled muscles as the connective tissue sort of start to not hold so well. Organisation is difficult, communication is difficult, headaches constantly, can't look at a screen for very long, can't sort of cope with loud noises or bright lights or all of those things. So what this means for the boat project is someone's got to micromanage it, and that's been me, and I can't do that like I was before. So I've still got that role of sort of, I suppose, manager or something, but not micromanaging anymore. So Damien's been really awesome. He's micromanaging himself and just checking in with me when we need to stay on schedule or change something. It means editing. I'm doing sort of the last final creative checks, but I'm not doing the grunt work. It'll be a bit of a slow recovery. Some great news. We heard from Stu this morning. It looks like he's hooning his way to Bundaberg. He'll be here any day now. So looking forward to seeing you soon, Stu. Have a good trip in, and we'll keep you updated, guys.
Can you sit on the table? I need weight. You don't have a lot of it, but I'll use all of it. Right, if you break table, I'm gonna fucking die.
Unless you've not welded properly. How's your welding?
We'll find out. I'll let you know soon.
The great weight test.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit darker than I expected it to be. It's actually quite nice. We're going to let this layer of epoxy go really hard. This teak is really hard to use. It's not like pine or something else that we've been using. It's bubbling up. It's reacting really differently to the epoxy. So we're going to leave this to go really hard. Then Dame will sand it down and make a really nice job of it and get some more layers on. But we want it to dry inside. We've got rain coming, reasonably heavy rain coming for the next 2 days. I think the finish will be amazing. I think you'll probably do another 3 coats or something. Sanding increasingly finer grit each time. And what we want is a mirror finish or almost like a liquid finish. We just think that would be really cool. So, and the chairs, who knew we were going to do blue? It's going to look all sort of fancy in here. It's going to be amazing. So they're very comfortable. I love them. But next, we're going to finish that galley, get the stainless in.
And I just want to say thanks to Barry Vitosi for sending this via Stu post. We got it when we met up with them in Brisbane a couple of weeks back.
Thanks, Barry.
See ya.